and you've been on lots and lots of shows. Some are painting you in a better light than others. The aim of today is just to get to know you and maybe paint you in a true light, but I don't feel like it's exploitative, and maybe get you reintroduced to the fighting community, get you on some shows, not so much fighting, but just in the circle.
Give some input to people, help the fighters out, and maybe do some corners perhaps to corner people, or maybe use padman, or helping out generally, because unfortunately my time seems to be up now.
So how old are you, man?
I'm currently 54 at the moment. I'll be 55 this year. So but I'm fitter than most at my age. I still train on the odd occasion, not as much as I used to now. I used to train 3 times a week, twice daily, for many years, and only in the past year I've had to come down to training once a week because of the cost of living crisis, to get more work, to pay my bills type thing. So unfortunately I've done more work and less training, just more work focused to pay the bills, and I do miss everything to do with BKB, everything to do with my sport. I really miss it. I miss being there with BKB community, friends and other fighters and coaches and things. I do miss it a lot, and I'd like to get back into that. And
you've been in it a long time, haven't you?
I've been in BKB for 35 years. I've spent 10 years in boxing, 10 years in MMA, and 35 years in all. I had my first bare knuckle fight, and it was one hell of a fight. It lasted 18 minutes, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And ever since then, I've been fighting ever since then. I had to take 5 years out because I was going for 5 years in 2000.
So when was your last fight? How long ago is it since the last time that you had a competitive?
That must have been just before the pandemic hit. So that must have been 2019 was the last one.
So we've had to move to a quieter location. So we're back on camera again. So Matt, can we go right back to the beginning? So was you born in Doncaster?
I was born in Doncaster, at the Doncaster Infirmary.
And you grew up here, you've always been here?
I grew up in Woodlands, Carcroft in Doncaster, Maxburgh, and where I am now. So I've brought up in a pit village. My family were pitters who worked at the Broadsworth Colliery.
The which colliery, sir?
Broadsworth Colliery.
Broadsworth, yeah.
That's where all my family worked. I would have worked there if it hadn't been closed down, but that's what happened, so I was able to follow my family's footsteps.
So I suppose when Margaret Thatcher shut all the pits down,
it affected my family a lot.
So it affected the whole community, didn't it? It brought basically poverty and sort of like ripped people's way of life away from under their feet. So did you say, you was talking earlier and you were saying that you didn't always stay with a family. Did you say you went to care?
I went into foster care when I was 10 years of age. So I went into foster care, then I went into childcare as well. And so I've been in childcare units as well as foster care through my childhood.
So that must have been tough, man.
So I just got through it and still with it as I've always done. And I've had difficult times, and during my time in foster care, that's when my fight career, my BKB fight career started in 1982 at school.
So that's like the first memorable fight that you got?
That was my first bare knuckle fight, and it lasted 18 minutes, and I remember it very well, as if it was yesterday. And it started there, and ever since then I've been into fighting ever since then. Because my father was a bare knuckle fighter, and his father was a bare knuckle fighter before him, well known in the whole of Doncaster region. They're both very well known. They trained at the plant, which at that time used to reside inside the train station.
So what was the plant? Was that a club?
The plant was a boxing club, and still is to this day. It's now based in Hexthorpe, but it was originally based inside the railway station. My father worked at the railway station after he left the pit, and him and his father, my father and grandfather, trained into the plant for years, for many years, and they became very well known all around the Lancaster region. In Knuckle, used to do the boxing moves at the fairs all over, all the time, for many years. Very well known they were. Thomas Stancliffe was my grandfather, and his son, my father Tony, were very good at what they did. So they lived only 100 feet from me, and I didn't even know it. And I have never met my father or grandfather.
Wow. So you had no knowledge that
I had knowledge of them, but my family lied to me for many years. They lied, and my father never met his children. He was not allowed to meet his children.
Right, so did you know that? So what stage did you find out that bare knuckle boxing was sort of like in your blood?
This was after my first bare knuckle fight in 1982. So I learned more about my father and grandfather during the 90s. When I was a pro wrestler at the time, at that time too. Because I was doing the genealogy of the family, I was working out my family past, family members, and I learned a lot about my father and grandfather from there. And they were apparently very good at it. My grandfather was a champion, and he was extremely good at it, my grandfather. But we never actually met. I only learned about 4 years ago that they actually lived about 100 yards away from me during that time, and we never knew it. We never knew.
Wow.
And my grandfather died in 1976, and my father died a year later. They were very close. They were close. They were, and my father basically couldn't handle the fact that his father was gone, and he died a year later. I was told that he died later on, after my brother's was born, but apparently he was not correct. And all the bare knuckle blood from my grandfather and father became my blood as well, and without me realising it, through all the bullying and all the stuff I've been through, I ended up being that good at beating up the bullies and beating up other fighters in and around the area, that I got good at it, so I turned into a career, and I've been there ever since, until 2003, when the hospital destroyed my life and messed up an operation which left me bedridden for 5 years.
Wow, so I'm going to come on to that, but can we just talk a little bit about the stage in between? So can we just touch on a little bit between when you left Kerr and then your fight career starting like professionally? What did you do? Did you work?
Basically, from 1980 to 1982, I was in foster care. And after this bare knuckle fight, I had to leave because apparently I so severely injured my opponent that the authorities must have cancelled my foster care, and I had to leave. So I went back home after that. And I went back home until 1984, when they put me into childcare. So I ended up in Crocodile Gardens in Carcroft.
And what is that?
In a childcare unit.
Right. Is that like a secure unit type thing?
No, it's not a secure unit. It's just a childcare unit for children in care. And I had a very good time. It was good there. I learned a lot, and I got on with everybody. Did very well, even though I was fighting quite a lot. Idiots that wanted to cause trouble. Basically, my school would always punish me all the time and allow the idiots to get away with it, but they would never challenge me in school because they knew what I was like. But out of school, I ended up having to deal with them because they thought they could do what they liked with the cards. So I continued my career that way, and then every so often, after I left childcare in '86, I had a big vertical fight in one of the junkyards in Carcroft, where now it's next door to the Rhetoric train station now. And I had a big vertical fight against a complete stranger who just started on me for no reason. He knew me from school apparently, and I don't remember him at all. But he started on me, so I had to fight in the junkyard and beat the crap out of him.
So this wasn't like an organised event?
No, it was forced fight situation. Most of my first part of my career was forced fight situations where I was just forced to fight. 1989.
So late 80s, early
1999, where a group of us were organising a fight in Enfield Park, again to settle a score. It was straightener rules type thing, and I was in Bedsit-land, and in Bedsit-land I was having fights every week. I was having fights all the time because people tried to steal my food, tried to steal my bedding, tried to steal from my room and that kind of thing. So we would go round the back from there, across the road into Enfield Park and just fight. And we would organise, whenever we had straight in a business, we would organise a fight in Enfield Park. And
so this was before the days of stabbings and shootings?
Oh, completely before that. This is old school style, proper, straightener, straight down the line, set it up, 5-minute rounds, as many rounds it takes to win, and just continued on. Some fights were just one round, continued on some of them until one won, and I won most of the fights against all the lads who were in Bedsit-land who thought they could steal and take what they want and simply can do what they like, and they found out the hard way. And I won most of those fights and got very good at it, so it's continued on, and then I moved from there to West Yorkshire, where my life became stable for the first time in my life, and then I was able to pursue a pro wrestling career.
So what sort of age was that?
An MMA career. I was 25 years of age.
So 25 years?
1995.
You moved to Wakefield and became
1995.
A pro wrestler, did you say?
And I trained in MMA and trained in pro wrestling, and I became a pro wrestler and continued training in MMA, and I went to Scotland to train for a while. Trained in Leeds and trained there. I did a lot of grueling training. It was grueling work, but I got through it and I got to enjoy it, and I was doing very well. And then I was just about to break into the MMA world, about to go into my first big show on MMA, and at the same time I was invited to the Killarney Games in Ireland also, so I went to Ireland to train as well for that.
So that's by special invite, isn't it?
By special invite, a very, very big event in Ireland, one of Ireland's biggest events. I'd also been to the United States and done tournaments there, and became submission fight champion 3 times in a row.
So you went to the US of A?
I was to the US of A. I trained in Los Angeles.
And what was you doing there? What kind of fighting was that in America?
I was doing competition submission, BKB and pro wrestling. I was training pro wrestling in Los Angeles with Iron Cross Hughes and Brian Walsh and amongst others. I was doing various straightener fights, won't come straightener fights, that'd be too strong, but I was doing barnacle fights in Los Angeles, San Diego, Chicago. Chicago was a forced fight situation, and Atlanta. So I was doing quite a lot at that time because my life had become stable. I went to the gym there and MMA club there, and training, and I really did very well. You know, I got a great body on me, and training a lot, 3 times a week, twice daily, and then everything was going good. But then up until 2003, a week before going to the Killarney Games, I had to cancel because the hospital destroyed my life, and I was bedridden for 5 years. That was the only time when I was completely out of everything for 5 years.
So I've heard little bits of your story on this. So you had an operation, it all went terribly wrong, and it's pivotal, your life changed from that point.
Everything changed, everything was destroyed, I lost everything.
So what was the operation?
A simple operation to remove an abscess from the base of my spine, and the anaesthetist got the anaesthetic mix wrong, and it's something to do with the anaesthetic. So they got the anaesthetic wrong.
Wow. And
it created a buzzing in my head that has never ceased, never ended, never changes, and it's very debilitating at times, especially in the first 5.5 years.
And is that something you live with to this day?
I live that for the rest of my life now. I've still got it today. That's the only part that has never altered and never changed. But I had shell shock type shaking sessions which used to last between 3 and 6 hours a day for 16 years. That lasted for 16 years. I only get small shaking sessions which lasted about 10 minutes. I go down to 10 minutes, probably twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year now. So it's not that bad, but the buzzing never ceases, it never ends.
Wow.
But one thing that does calm it down is having a fight. When I actually do the fight shows, it would calm the buzzing down. It would be one thing that would just calm it completely down. The fight and flight syndrome that kicks in to every fighter. The fight and flight syndrome actually helps the buzzing and reduces it to practically zero. And it helps me a lot in my fights, and I absolutely enjoy it.
So just the pure adrenaline of a fight would overcome the condition?
It seems to calm it down, the fight and flight syndrome, as it builds and builds. And then when the bell goes, then it's pure heaven for me. I really enjoy a good fight. So the actual fights, the fight career actually helps the buzzing, it helps the condition, it helps calm it down, it doesn't interfere with it, it is the opposite.
What about the training? The whole training, does that all help as well?
Yes, it does.
Or did it?
It does help. When I train, it also helps. It helps calm it down a bit when I'm doing the various training in the various moves, the various tactics you use, the various, especially in the sparring. In the sparring, that really helps the most. The sparring helps the most in this condition. It's just like very good.
A buzz of adrenaline or something.
I suppose it somehow calms the buzzing down to such a degree that I can just do what I want and do what I need and do the training and concentrate on the training, which I do, and I just get through it and get it done and learn what I need to do, and it's good. I've enjoyed it all this time.
So has the medical profession said that this is just it? Have you heard of anyone else going through the same thing?
Well, I did hear only rumours that the same hospital, Pontefract Hospital, apparently others have suffered the same kind of thing with the anaesthetic. That they end up suffering a head buzzing after they've had the anaesthetic from various operations they've had. I've heard rumours that others have suffered this buzzing as well, the same as me, but I'm the most extreme of case, so I've heard, but it's only rumour. But what happened is because the hospital held all of the information, they destroyed it, closed ranks, and denied everything, and the lawyer dropped the case because there was no evidence on my side. It's my word against theirs, so they dropped the case, so the hospital got away with it, and I spent all the rest of my life my closest friend in Wakefield, getting through this, trying to learn off myself to try and force this thing, to cope with it, to get the shaking down to 20 minutes or so. It took years to do that.
Did you say you were bedbound for 5
I
years?
was bedbound for 5.5 years because the buzzing would create a dizziness, and that dizziness is literally the only thing I've ever feared. It's the only thing that I feared, because it was like my soul being ripped from my body but not being allowed to release. It was horrific. It was like death itself, death throes itself. There was that dizziness. That lasted for 5.5 years, and that's the only thing in my life that I actually feared. I feared nothing else, just that. But that lasted for 5.5 years, did that. And in 2009, the shaking sessions got really bad, and I had a little bit of alcohol, and apparently I had a reaction against the alcohol. And apparently this thing has made me allergic to alcohol, so I can't take alcohol anymore. So I ended up being rushed to hospital, and I actually died for a short time in the hospital, for a very short time. And that's when the buzzing was gone. The only time the buzzing was gone, I knew I was somewhere else, but I was so elated the fact that the buzzing was gone. I didn't realise exactly where I was, but I wasn't where I was in the hospital. I was somewhere else. I don't know where. But I was only there for about a minute, and then I was back in the hospital, and they had revived me, the hospital nurses. Because it happened in reception. As soon as I entered the hospital, I collapsed and was gone, and was released.
Shit, man, you've been through it, mate.
So every June I celebrate a death day. I have a birthday. I also have a death day. So I always celebrate a death day every year, every 2nd of June, since 2009.
I'll put it in the calendar and I'll have a drink for you on the 2nd of June every year.
I celebrate my happy deceased day. I have my own little death days, kind of like a birthday, kind of, because I do celebrate that, because I'm still here. I still continue, and I've learned from everything, and I just keep on working and keep on going, just doing what I need to do, and get on with everybody, and just get on with work. And I do miss getting back in that pit, getting back in that ring, and I do miss it.
Yeah, I suppose that's the same as all of us. Father time catches up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Father time catches up, and we can't be or do what we used to do.
Yeah.
So going back to something that you said, you mentioned that the buzzing, that was the only thing that you ever feared. Now I've watched some of your fights.
It's not the buzzing, it's the dizziness for the first 5.5 years. That was 5.5 years, but the dizziness, that's the thing that I feared, because that was like literal death throes of my soul being ripped from my body. That's what it felt like. That was the only thing that I feared. It wasn't the buzzing, it was the dizziness. But that only lasted 5.5 years. And luckily, that and the hallucinations, that was it. After that, it was just the buzzing and the shaking sessions. But I got the shaking sessions down. I trained myself to get the shaking through my legs, and kept them going through my legs. Until it stopped, and I got it down to 20 minutes. But I ended up seeing the biggest tinnitus specialist in the country in Pontyfad Hospital. I was employed by Pontyfad Hospital, and I ended up having a shaking session right in front of his face, and he panicked. He didn't know what to do. He cancelled the session and never saw me again. And yet he's employed by the same hospital that did this to me, and he hadn't a clue what was happening. I thought, well, is this what tinnitus is? He was just stating off a script, tinnitus doesn't do this, tinnitus doesn't do that. Well, I'm saying it does this, it does that, and then it happened in front of him, and he didn't know what to do. He hadn't a clue.
So they said basically you're suffering from
tinnitus, a rare form of tinnitus from the centre of the head, not the ears, and tinnitus does this and this and this oh, it doesn't do shaking sessions, oh, it doesn't do this. And then it happened right in front of his face. I thought, this is what he does. And there I am shaking. And it lasted a good 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And the look on his face, he hadn't a clue what was happening. He hadn't a clue. And he's supposed to be the biggest genetic specialist in the entire country, employed by the hospital that actually did this to me. That closed ranks and put claims in for tests they never even did. So I ended up just being abandoned and having to deal with all of this all by myself, all on my own for ever since then.
Matt, do you still feel angry with the NHS?
I feel angry with Butterfly Hospital. I hate them for what they did. I will always hate them for what they did. I refuse to be treated in Butterfly Hospital because I cannot trust them. Because for what they did and what I go through with this buzzing that I go through even now for the rest of my life, I hate Pontificados for what they did to me. I don't know who the doctors' names were who did the operation on to what they did, but the anaesthetist, we believe, is the one who got the mix wrong. I think it's the anaesthetist that did the wrong thing, not the actual operation thing itself. It's just the anaesthetist mix that did all that, caused all this. That's what I think it is.
Wow.
And
so you said like your biggest fear was that the shaking and stuff. I've never seen. I've watched a few of your fights on the internet, and to be honest, before we met, and I asked you if we would sit down on camera and do some stuff, and after that, I kind of looked at who's Matt Thorne on the internet, and to be honest, you've been cast in a really bad light, my friend. You know, I feel like people have sort of like tried to make out that the guy's not all there, or that, you know, there's no account of what you've been through in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, we were speaking earlier, and you were saying as a child you was never diagnosed with any conditions.
No, I've got no ADHD, no things like that. I've got no problems, no issues.
I mean, you read, you write, you're working full time now, despite all these conditions that you're going through, like the health issues.
Yeah, the only health issue is just the buzzing, but I've controlled that and I don't allow it to affect me, and I've got it to a point now. It's now 21 years or so since it's happened, and now it's just normal life now. I just deal with it, and you know, I can't have silence in the room. I can't have any silence. I always have the radio on at the bedside, or I've something, a television on or radio on or something. I don't like silence, because silence is painful for me.
I've not seen any fear when I've watched you in the ring.
No,
I've watched you.
One thing this condition does is I don't have the ability to feel fear, intimidation, sexual pleasure or sexual attraction. Those four feelings seem to be going through the buzz barrier to my receptors and gets weakened, because between the gene, when the genes send the signals, they have to pass through the buzz barrier to my brain receptors. But as they're going through the buzz barrier, they're getting weakened to a point where I can't feel them no more. So I don't feel those feelings. So I can't be intimidated. I don't feel fear of any opponent. I don't feel sexual attraction to any men or women or anything like that, or sexual pleasure, anything like that. All that's
Have you had a relationship, Matt?
I won't call it a relationship. I had a girlfriend a couple of years ago, and the sex was that bad because I can't feel, so I can't do that very well. The sex was that crap that I wasn't keeping in touch, because again, with the buzz barrier, there's certain feelings I can't feel, so like keeping in touch with somebody, there isn't any feeling to keep in touch, so I wasn't keeping in touch with her as much as she would like, and the sex was that crap because obviously I can't do sex very well because I can't feel
feelings. Sex is overrated, mate, trust me, I practice, it's overrated.
So all that is, you know, my gender is beyond use and put out of use. I'm not bothered with that. All I do is get on with work, get on with training, get on with my fight career, that thing. But now it's come to a point where I've now become at the age where my fight career is now pretty much over, even though I wasn't allowed to have my retirement BKB fight. I've had my retirement boxing match, I've had my retirement cage fight, and I loved them. It was great stuff. But I haven't had my retirement BKB fight, and I wasn't been given the chance to have my retirement fight. Everybody else has had their retirement fight, but I'm not allowed to have mine. And that's a bit unfair considering how much I put into it, how much work I put into it, how much training, how much help I put into BBAD with all the BBADers and stuff.
Matt, I want to talk about your fights,
yeah.
right? So you faced some people.
Yeah.
You fought the guy in Wales.
Seth Jones, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Rest in peace. Seth, you told me he passed away last year, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately he passed away last year.
So like, he's some machine and
oh yes.
God, he's double your weight.
Yeah, he was 16.5 stone at the time, I was 11.5 stone at the time. His opponent failed to turn up, my opponent failed to turn up. I'd only met him for 5 minutes, didn't know who he was at the time, and we agreed to get in that pit and have it out, and so we did do. So that lasted, 8 minutes. And
How many bare knuckle fights did you have?
44, altogether 44.
44 fights, Jesus.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah.
And did you win? How many? Did you win many of these?
I won more than I lost. So I lost about 8.
And that wasn't a derogatory comment, because I believe anyone who steps in that ring is a winner.
I lost about 8. I think about 8. I drew 3. And lost, I think it was 8, I think, and we won the rest. But yeah, and before BBAD won, they knew about my fight career, so they brought me into BBAD because I thought I could really do stuff, even though the hospital had destroyed my life just before then. So I was a fragment of what I was. But this fragment was still tougher than a hell of a lot of people, and I thought I have to get back and prove to the world that I am what I was back then. You know, that I was still legendary status, but I wasn't legendary status because what I'd done, I was only a fragment. I was only a fragment of legendary status, a fragment of what I was. But the fragment that I was tougher than a hell of a lot of fighters. And I then did BBAD 1, BBAD 2, BBAD 3, and a few, quite a few others as well.
We've got these people here. We might have to wrap it up in a bit, Matt, because we're running out of space as far as time. So Matt, the future. What's the future hold to you? So you were telling me it's just about work at the moment.
Well, at the moment, work, getting more work because of the cost of living crisis. And I only train once a week now, instead of 3 times a week, twice daily. And I wouldn't mind, getting back into training more and then helping people out to events and shows, because my time is pretty much up now.
So this is a shout out to people in the fight community. I know quite a few people now. I've made some connections. I'm going to speak to them. Hopefully they'll see this. But it's a shout out to anyone in the fight community to get hold of Matt through myself, either involve him in training with some fighters, or just bringing him along to some shows, as a special guest. I believe someone who's been fighting for 30 years, 35
years.
35 years.
Altogether, 35 years.
Yeah, I think we need a bit of respect shown with this man. I'd made a bit of a presumption about who Matt was before this interview, or before I contacted him when we spoke, and there's been some negative, really piss take basically stuff going on the internet, but I can guarantee you he's a lovely guy, he's a very intelligent man, and I think he deserves a bit of respect. So yeah, let's get this man on some shows, special guest, and I think that You'd appreciate that, wouldn't you, mate?
Even in the modern period, since 2010, I've fought anyone, any weight, any size for all of my career. Where in the modern period, since 2010, that's B-bad period onwards, which is the modern period, they've brought in things like weight categories and that kind of thing to make it more mainstream, which is a good thing. But I've always fought anyone, any weight, any size. I've always done that. And I guess, because I'm old school, I guess that it'll always be that way.
And you're still fighting now, aren't you, lad? A lot of people would have given up with the cartridge down.
I still hunger for it. I'm still fitter than most of my age. I'm still fit enough to at least stand around. So yeah, but even though my
I don't believe you need to, mate. Matt, I believe that the war's over for you, lad. I don't believe you need to stand your ground.
Yeah, I know, but I know that my official fight career is over, but I've still got what it takes. I haven't faltered on that. So still got what it takes.
Listen, thanks for your time, man.
Okay, thanks.
And I really appreciate it, genuinely.
Thanks.
You're a good guy, we'll stay in touch, yeah?
Yeah.
And we'll see what we can do to get you on some shows.
Yeah, so it'll be good to get back to it and at least help with people, maybe do a bit of interviewing with people maybe or something, or helping fighters out, doing corners and pad work with people and helping people prepare for their fights on the night and that kind of thing, because I've been there myself 3 times. I hunger for it, to be honest. But yeah, I can help people out.
There's 35 years experience, so I'm sure you've got something to give.
35 years, third generation BKB fighter, 35 years experience. Honourable gentleman, never broken the law. I've got no criminal record, and just I know a guy who just deals with issues straight up, straight on. I don't divert from anything, I just get things done.
Well, hopefully people know who Matt Thorne is now, And it's been a pleasure for me, genuinely. So, we'll speak soon, Matt, yeah?
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Thank you.